In a bold and unprecedented maneuver, France is poised to rewrite the playbook of international diplomacy by announcing plans to dispatch a formidable arsenal to support Ukraine's defense efforts. With tensions escalating in Eastern Europe, the French government's decision to deploy hundreds of VAB armored vehicles and sophisticated Aster missiles to Ukraine has sent shockwaves across the geopolitical landscape. This strategic move not only underscores France's commitment to bolstering regional security, but also heralds a new chapter in the dynamics of global power play. As the world watches with bated breath, the stage is set for a high-stakes geopolitical showdown that could reshape the contours of international relations. Conflict in eastern Ukraine began in 2014 when Russia annexed Crimea and supported separatist movements in the eastern regions of Ukraine, namely Donetsk and Luhansk. The annexation of Crimea followed protests in Ukraine that led to the ousting of pro-Russian President Viktor Yanukovych. Russia's actions in Crimea and its support for separatists in eastern Ukraine ignited a protracted conflict. The conflict in eastern Ukraine escalated into a full-fledged war between Ukrainian government forces and Russian-backed separatist militias. The separatists, supported by Russian military equipment, including tanks, artillery, and personnel, declared independence from Ukraine, leading to intense fighting in the Donetsk and Luhansk regions. The conflict has resulted in a significant loss of life and displacement of civilians, with both sides accusing each other of human rights abuses and violations of international law. Despite multiple ceasefire agreements and peace negotiations, sporadic fighting continues to this day, with occasional flare-ups of violence causing further casualties and destruction. In response to Russia's actions, Western countries, including France, have provided political, economic, and military support to Ukraine. This support aims to bolster Ukraine's ability to defend itself against Russian aggression and preserve its territorial integrity. France and Ukraine have maintained diplomatic relations, and France has been a vocal supporter of Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. This support has included diplomatic efforts, economic aid, and military assistance. France has provided various forms of military assistance to Ukraine, including training programs for Ukrainian forces and supplying military equipment. The provision of VAB armored vehicles and Aster missiles represents a significant escalation in military support and underscores France's commitment to Ukraine's defense. The Ukrainians could scarcely have hoped for a swifter response. That evening, President Emmanuel Macron announced that France would send 6 more Caesar howitzers in addition to the 18 already delivered, as well as anti-aircraft systems, radars, and more. On October 15th, Sébastien Lecornu, his defense minister, spelled out the details. France would send Crotale air defense systems to be operational within 2 months and train 2,000 Ukrainian soldiers. It is also looking at sending LRU multiple launch rocket systems, MLRs, similar to the American Humans. Some reports suggest that 3 of the French systems are already on the ground. France's President, Emmanuel Macron, has pledged to provide Ukraine with armored combat vehicles to help in the war against Russia. The Élysée Palace declined to detail how many of its AMX-10 vehicles will be sent, nor the timing of the deliveries, but it cast the move as a sign of how Macron wanted to amplify military aid to Ukraine. France will also send Bastion armored personnel carriers that will be bought out of a Euro 200-man fund and set up by the Paris government for Ukraine to acquire military equipment. Ukraine's president, Volodymyr Zelensky, thanked Macron on Twitter, saying, "Your leadership brings our victory closer." The move signals that France, with one of the biggest defense budgets in NATO, is committed to supporting Ukraine against Russia as the war approaches its second year. Kyiv has been pushing its allies to provide armored vehicles, as well as battle tanks, air defense systems, and longer-range missiles as it prepares for a possible renewed Russian offensive later this winter. Armored vehicles and APCs are also critical for any counteroffensive operations Kyiv mounts later this year. This is the first time that tanks designed in the West will be given to the Ukrainian forces, said the Élysée. Although the official described the AMX-10 as a tank, it is technically an armored vehicle that runs on wheels, not tracks, and is lighter and more mobile than a tank. France and Ukraine have described the AMX-10 RC as a light tank, which is significant. Despite Ukraine's pleas, the US and other countries have refused to send first-line tanks such as the M1 Abrams. It was designed in the 1970s as a tank killer and has a powerful gun that can pierce armor as well as buildings, but it is deemed less effective against the armor of modern battle tanks. Nonetheless, France's decision to supply AMX-10 RC is a step towards providing Ukraine with tanks, something it has repeatedly requested from its Western backers. Ukraine's allies have declined to provide Kyiv with NATO standard battle tanks. The AMX-10RC is really a six-wheeled armored car. It is a 16-ton vehicle capable of traveling 50 miles per hour. Its wheeled design means it can move fast on roads and smooth terrain and requires less maintenance than a heavy, tracked vehicle such as the 70-ton Abrams. The AMX-10RC's thin armor protects against small arms and shrapnel, but not large-caliber tank rounds or anti-tank missiles. While its manufacturer, Guyot Industries, does offer an add-on kit with extra armor and missile countermeasures, the AMX-10RC is more suited for locating the enemy and beating a hasty retreat if necessary, rather than going cannon to cannon with main battle tanks. In other words, the AMX-10RC was designed to be part of a light mechanized force that rides to the rescue of NATO forces desperately defending against a Soviet blitzkrieg. That's not the situation in Ukraine now. Fighting there has become trench warfare, with incremental gains rather than sweeping armored offensives in which fast, armored scout vehicles excel. Ukraine wants German-built Leopards, which are operated by several European countries and therefore widely available. However, Berlin has declined, fearing it could be deemed by Moscow as an escalatory move. Zelensky and Macron said the two leaders had agreed to further cooperation to significantly strengthen air defense and other defense capabilities. Kyiv has also been pressing France to provide its medium-range Mamba air defense systems to help protect critical infrastructure from Russian missile attacks. France's move comes after it had been criticized by analysts and some allies for donating less weaponry to Ukraine than other European governments. The Kiel Institute for the World Economy, which has been tracking donations to Ukraine, has France giving less material than the UK, Germany, or Poland. France refutes those figures and says it does not disclose all it has given. Amidst this backdrop of scrutiny, Defense Minister Sébastien Lecornu's recent announcement served as a resounding affirmation of France's unwavering support for Ukraine's defense efforts. In an interview with La Tribune Dimanche, Lecornu revealed that President Emmanuel Macron had personally tasked him with designing a comprehensive new aid package aimed at strengthening Kyiv's defenses. This proactive approach not only addresses concerns over France's level of assistance, but also signals a renewed commitment to bolstering Ukraine's ability to resist Russian aggression. Central to this aid package will be the provision of new surface-to-air missiles, enhancing Ukraine's ability to counter aerial threats. Additionally, Lecornu emphasized France's intention to provide old yet functional equipment from its own military arsenal. Among these offerings are armored vehicles, crucial for troop mobility along Ukraine's extensive front line. Lecornu stressed the significance of such support, highlighting the pivotal role armored vehicles play in maintaining troop mobility and effectively holding defensive positions. These contributions align with Ukraine's specific requests for assistance in confronting the ongoing conflict. France's commitment to providing both cutting-edge and legacy military equipment reflects a multifaceted approach to assisting Ukraine in its struggle against Russian aggression. As tensions escalate in the region, France's proactive stance signals solidarity with Ukraine and underscores its determination to uphold stability and security in Europe. Russia continued hitting Ukraine's energy infrastructure on Sunday. A Russian missile strike in Ukraine's western Lviv region on Sunday killed one man, while another man died in an attack in the northeast, the Associated Press reported. The Ukrainian Air Force said it shot down 9 of the 11 Shahed-type drones launched by Russia overnight, as well as 9 out of 14 cruise missiles. Meanwhile, hundreds of thousands in Ukraine's Odessa region were left without power Sunday after debris from a downed Russian drone caused a blaze at an energy facility. The AP reported Governor Ole Kuiper as saying, Sunday's attacks came just days after Moscow unleashed 99 missiles and drones in a massive attack against Ukrainian energy infrastructure. 3 power plants were seriously damaged in that onslaught, Ukrainian energy company DTEK said. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Sunday signed a decree setting out the routine spring conscription campaign, calling up 150,000 citizens for military service. A post on the Kremlin's website indicated on Sunday, all men in Russia are required to serve 1 year of compulsory military service. France's decision was announced after an hour-long call between French President Emmanuel Macron and Zelensky Wednesday afternoon. The Élysée declined to provide details about the agreement. The AMX-10RC has been in service with the French military since 19 1981 and has undergone recent upgrades. France's defense ministry said the combat vehicle is now being gradually replaced by the new equivalent named Jaguar. The decision is another in France's military support to Ukraine, following the French defense minister's visit to Kyiv last week. Paris has supplied Ukraine with a substantial chunk of its arsenal of Caesar cannons, as well as anti-tank missiles, Krotal air defense missile batteries, and rocket launchers. It is also training some 2,000 Ukrainian troops on French soil. France's commitment to bolstering Ukraine's defense capabilities against potential threats was reaffirmed by Defense Minister Sébastien Lecornu's recent announcement. In an interview with French media on March 30th, Lecornu disclosed that France is set to deliver a shipment of Aster-30 anti-aircraft missiles and hundreds of armored vehicles as part of a comprehensive military aid package. The revelation follows an earlier announcement by Presidents Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine and Emmanuel Macron of France on February 16th. At that time, the leaders unveiled plans for a new defense package from France to Ukraine, including additional air defense systems. However, specific details regarding the contents of the package were not disclosed until now. The inclusion of the Aster-30 anti-aircraft missiles underscores France's commitment to providing Ukraine with advanced weaponry capable of countering aerial threats effectively. Additionally, the provision of hundreds of armored vehicles will significantly enhance Ukraine's mobility and defensive capabilities along its front line. Kyiv faces an air defense shortage that has grown increasingly urgent amid intensifying Russian strikes. Paris will unlock a new batch of Aster-30 missiles for the SAMP-T Mamba system, the French equivalent of the U.S. Patriot, in response to Ukraine's air defense shortage, Lecornu said on March 30th. We are also developing teleoperated munitions in a very short time to deliver them to the Ukrainians this summer, he said. The package will also include hundreds of old, but still operational armored vehicles. To hold such a large front line, the Ukrainian army needs, for example, our armored front vehicles. This is absolutely key for troop mobility, Lecornu said. The armored personnel carriers are over 40 years old. The French military stocks will be replaced by the next generation Griffin vehicles. France is preparing a new package of military aid for Ukraine. It will include hundreds of armored vehicles and Aster anti-aircraft missiles, according to the French defense minister, Sébastien Lecornu. The armored vehicles from the aid package will bolster the mobility of Ukrainian military units, and Aster-30 will add to Kyiv's crucial long-range defense capabilities against ballistic threats, such as Russian Ko-47 Kinzhal, 3 M22 Zircon missiles, and such. Still, this provision does not introduce anything new. Particularly, the Aster-30 is the only missile interceptor of the SAMP-T system, so it was previously provided to Ukraine alongside the equipment. Possibly, Lecornu meant either of two or both options. A, France will replenish Ukraine's stock of missiles spent to repel threats, or B, Paris will increase the supply compared to last year. For a reminder, the first SAMP-T arrived in Ukraine in the spring of 2023. He noted that the focus is on armored vehicles currently in France's inventory, but they are planning to replace them with newer ones. To hold such an extensive front line, the Ukrainian army needs, for example, our VAB vehicles. It's absolutely essential for troop mobility. This old equipment, still operational, will be able to directly benefit Ukraine in significant quantities. We can talk about hundreds of them for 2024 and early 2025, the minister said. According to Lecornu, France also aims to assist in strengthening Ukraine's air defense, thus preparing a new batch of Aster-30 anti-aircraft missiles for the SAMP-T air defense system. These SAM systems are counterparts to the Patriot system. The minister added that France is developing remotely controlled munitions. They could likely be delivered to Ukraine as early as this summer. France's decision to send armored vehicles and anti-aircraft missiles to Ukraine transcends mere bilateral relations, carrying profound geopolitical significance. By actively supporting Ukraine in the face of Russian aggression, France aligns itself with other Western nations, amplifying the international response against such flagrant breaches of sovereignty. This solidarity not only strengthens the resolve of the international community, but also reaffirms the fundamental principles of peace and security. As a member of NATO, France's assistance to Ukraine underscores the alliance's steadfast commitment to collective security. While Ukraine may not be a NATO member, France's aid embodies the spirit of collective defense enshrined in NATO's Article 5. which considers an attack on one member as an attack on all. This solidarity serves as a powerful deterrent against further aggression and reinforces the cohesion of the alliance. However, France's support for Ukraine inevitably draws the ire of Russia, which perceives any foreign military aid to Ukraine as a direct challenge to its sphere of influence. Russia's response may exacerbate tensions and strain diplomatic relations between France and Russia, heightening the risk of escalation in an already volatile region. Yet France's aid package is not a solitary endeavor, but part of a broader European effort to support Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Other EU countries have also provided military assistance, signaling a united front in the face of adversity. This collective response underscores European unity and resolve, demonstrating a shared commitment to upholding international norms and values. The provision of foreign military aid to Ukraine has been met with staunch opposition from Russia, which perceives such assistance as unwelcome interference in its sphere of influence. Russian officials have consistently voiced their objections, arguing that foreign military aid exacerbates the conflict and undermines efforts for a peaceful resolution. This stance reflects Russia's broader strategic objectives in the region and its determination to maintain influence over neighboring states. In its efforts to discredit foreign aid to Ukraine, Russian state-controlled media has employed propaganda and disinformation tactics. These media outlets portray Western assistance as evidence of aggressive Western intentions, framing it as a provocative act against Russia. Disinformation campaigns seek to sow doubt about the legitimacy of Ukraine's government and the intentions of countries providing aid, casting them as hostile actors seeking to undermine Russia's interests. Moreover, Russia has sought to counter foreign aid efforts by providing its own version of humanitarian aid to separatist-controlled areas in eastern Ukraine. However, this aid is often criticized by the international community as a thinly veiled cover for military support. Questions about the transparency and true intent behind Russia's aid shipments have raised doubts about its humanitarian claims. Russia's response to foreign aid to Ukraine is not merely reactive, but also strategic in nature. The Kremlin carefully calculates the impact of aid provisions on the dynamics of the conflict and adjusts its military actions accordingly. For instance, when the U.S. announced additional military aid to Ukraine, Russia responded with warnings of potential consequences, signaling its readiness to escalate tensions in response to perceived threats. At the heart of Russia's opposition to foreign aid to Ukraine lies its broader geopolitical ambitions. Ukraine is viewed by Russia as an integral part of its historical and strategic sphere, and any attempts to bolster Ukraine's defenses are seen as a direct challenge to Russia's influence in the region. The conflict in Ukraine is thus intertwined with broader geopolitical tensions between Russia and the West, reflecting competing visions for the future of Eastern Europe. Beyond the realm of geopolitics, France's support for Ukraine carries a poignant humanitarian message. Amidst the devastation wrought by the conflict, France's assistance sends a clear message of solidarity with the Ukrainian people, offering hope amidst despair. In this way, France's aid transcends mere military hardware, embodying the compassion and empathy of the international community towards those affected by the conflict. On the geopolitical front, France's aid to Ukraine has far-reaching implications. It strengthens Western unity in condemning Russia's actions and reaffirms the importance of upholding international norms and principles. By providing military assistance, France aligns itself with other Western nations in pushing back against Russian aggression, potentially increasing pressure on Russia to reconsider its actions in Ukraine. However, it also risks further escalating tensions with Russia and may strain diplomatic relations between the two countries. Nevertheless, France's aid to Ukraine underscores the collective European effort to support Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity, demonstrating unity and resolve in the face of external threats.